Let's stay with food. Eating disorders have long been considered a problem primarily among women, but new data is revealing the extent to which men also struggle with eating disorders. The number of men who have been admitted to hospitals for this problem has risen 70% in just the last 6 years. And this morning, I'm joined by Christina Muska, a licensed therapist from the Birmingham Maple Clinic, to shed more light on this problem. First of all, what would explain the 70% rise, for instance, of hospitalizations among men?
I think more recognition that men can struggle. So I think they've always been struggling, but now they're getting help that they need. So I think that's why there's a rise in people getting treatment.
So there's good news and bad news. The good news is that it's not an increase necessarily. The bad news is that lots of guys have been suffering in silence for a long time and are now getting the help.
Correct.
So how do the symptoms, are there any differences between the symptoms of men and women for eating disorders?
I think the symptoms actually are pretty similar. It depends on the eating disorder. There's anorexia where someone will restrict their food intake, bulimia where someone will consume a large amount in a short amount of time and then compensate with vomiting, laxative use, over exercise, and then binge eating, in which there's no compensatory behavior, but a large quantity of food is consumed in a short amount of time. And that actually has, the rate for men is about 40% of presenting problems are men. So
for binge eating?
Yeah, for binge eating. Yep.
Now, we talked before we started here about some of the stigmas associated with men and women, and that there's a difference there.
Yes, I think for men there might be an added level of shame. There's shame in all eating disorders, but there might be an added level because of the stereotype, the myth that exists that it's just men.
So suffering from what their friends might say is a woman's disease or woman's illness.
Correct.
In that regard.
Yeah, in actuality, research shows about 20 million women and 10 million men will struggle with a clinical eating disorder.
And while we may think of this as primarily, as a final question here, of a image issue, this is deadly.
This is absolutely deadly. Eating disorders have the highest mortality rate out of any psychiatric disorder. So it's vital. If you know someone that's struggling, it's vital that they get help or that you get help.
All right, Christina Muska, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and thank you for the great information. We'll be back with a check of news and weather coming up in just a bit.